Hello and welcome to an all-new adult erotica in comics. You're watching SVon82. I am Scott. Scotty, call me an asshole, whatever you want, just as long as you hit that like button on the way in, I would be eternally grateful. Now on today's video, we're going to be talking about Bud Root and a title that he created by the name of Cave Woman. So stick around. Cave Woman is a comic book about a jungle woman with superhuman abilities who lives in the prehistoric era. She also battles prehistoric dinosaurs and other creatures. And that's pretty much going to be the center of today's video, Cave Woman. But before we talk about the actual story, I feel it's very important to talk about the creator, Mr. Bud Root. Now, Bud Root is a cartoonist and a comic book artist who got his love very early on when his grandfather introduced him to comic books. He grew up loving comics and artwork, and eventually he got old enough to enlist in the military. And when he did have the opportunity, he joined the Marines, and the Marines utilized his artistic abilities and put him to work in the Marine Corps Graphic Arts Department, where he would draw military vehicles and other such things for internal presentations. Now, he would do so up until 1993, when he would leave the Marines. And after leaving the military, he had his focus on making it in the comic book industry. He tried his hand with Marvel. He tried with a bunch of other comic book imprints that were popular at the time, only to get rejected repeatedly over and over again. One day, Bud Root just so happened to be at a bookstore, looking around, checking out some books, and he met the shop owner, who himself was an author by the name of James Robert Smith. Now, Smith and Bud Root would get to talking. He would see Bud Root's artwork, see what a great artist he was. They developed a little bit of a relationship, and he decided to commission Bud Root to do some work for a project that he had in mind by the name of the James Gang. This was going to be a Western, and Bud Root would end up illustrating a couple of stories for the book, one being for the James Gang and the other being for Johnny 13. The book would be published under the London Night Studios imprint. Now, unfortunately, the book performed very poorly, and it's so funny. It performed so poorly, in fact, that Smith actually ended up just settling up with Bud by paying him in King Kong collectible cards from his bookstore. So I thought that was pretty funny. I wonder how they came up with, here, just take these King Kong collectible cards for a payment. I wonder how that worked out. I don't know. But anyways, moving on. Now, this could have been a very discouraging experience, and it probably would have been for a lot of artists. But not Mr. Root, not Mr. Bud Root. He actually, quite the contrary, he used it for motivation and got together with his wife, decided that they were going to pull together all their funds, round up all the money that they had, and start their own small publishing company. And they did, and they named it Basement Comics. Now that he had Basement Comics, a small publishing company of his very own, he used this to publish his own books. And Cave Woman issue 1 came out in 1993. Now that I've told you guys a little bit about the creator, let's jump into the series, Cave Woman. Now, Bud was inspired by Little Annie Fanny and William Stout, and he wanted to do something similar to Little Annie Fanny, but in the Stone Age. Now, it was originally intended to be a TNA book solely. However, when he began to write the story and working on the story, it began developing really well for him. His grandfather had passed away after he wrote it. He had been diagnosed with an inoperable tumor, and it really made Bud think about things a lot. He wanted to do it a little more respectable, and he actually got to show his grandpa issue 1 before he passed away. Now, Cave Woman, known as Miriam Cecil B. Cooper, was born in July of 1980 to two parents in the fictional town of Marshville, Oregon. After her father fell victim to unknown causes, her mother would turn to drugs. And this led her to an entanglement with a secret group of government agents. Now, Gramps uses the body enhancement on Miriam, but during this process, manages to accidentally send him, Miriam, and Clyde, a 15-foot enhanced gorilla, through time. So he thinks that they're going 70 years into the future. They actually end up 70 million years in the past. Now, this is where the story basically starts for young Miriam. They settle in the jungle, they make a home in a large cave, and they struggle for survival. Eventually, Gramps would be killed by a T-Rex, and Miriam would decide to flee their home in the cave. There's a whole continuing story. It goes on and on. We're not going to continue it from here, though. Instead, I'm going to give you more details about the character. Now, Miriam's powers are the result of a body-enhancing device, like I was talking about a few minutes ago, and it enhanced her molecular structure. She possesses extraordinary strength as well as stamina. Now, she's highly resistant to injury. She does have a healing factor. It's kind of unique the way that they apply her healing factor in the story, where it's based on how well nourished she is. If she's well fed, her healing factor obviously is going to work really well. If she's starving, if she's not doing that well, her healing factor works less well. So it makes sense. So obviously the more food that she can consume, the quicker she's going to heal. And when she's really badly injured, she gets very hungry. She's on par with an athlete as far as her speed. She has a top speed of around 30 miles per hour. She is an extremely great swimmer, probably on par with an athletic swimmer. She can hold her breath for a really long period of time. She has enhanced senses such as smell and also has psychic powers, the limit to which have never really been revealed. She's an expert knife thrower. She is also an expert at hand-to-hand combat. She is also highly skilled at boxing and wrestling and is an expert with a spear. Cave Woman started in 1993 and it ran all the way through its most recent release being in 2018, I believe. And it started on Basement Comics, like we talked about a little while earlier when I was telling you Bud Root pulled the funds together with his wife to start up the Basement Comics to first produce issue 1 in 93. But however, it was also released on Caliber Comics as well as Avatar Press. Cave Woman was awarded Best Pen and Ink Award by the Inkwell Awards at HeroesCon in 2010. And in 1999 was nominated for an Ignatz Award for Outstanding Story for the Cave Woman, Jungle Tales. As far as I know, Bud Root is still alive and well today, and his art is still out there. It's still in every comic shop, at every Comic Con that you go to. You see Cave Woman, you see Bud Root's art. This was really a pleasure to make this video. Bud Root is somebody that I really didn't know a whole lot about. I really didn't know a whole lot about Cave Woman or Miriam, anything about this series, anything about his work. But I did admire seeing it. I love seeing it. When I go to different shops, if they have something on the wall of his or something like that. I just always enjoy seeing this type of artwork. I enjoy putting the research in and making these type of videos for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy watching them. I hope there's a takeaway from these. I hope that you learned something. Come back next week where I'll drop a brand new one. I'm dropping them every week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.